Hogwarts Legacy has a surprising number of secrets and a feature that only some PC players can access. I'm actually surprised by the number of hidden interactions that the team added, and some of them it seems they might have changed after the recent update. So let's dive right in with all these discoveries, and also don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you end up enjoying this video. Coming up to number 1, I'm pretty sure that at some point we were supposed to have a more advanced companion system as hinted by the countless voice lines that trigger under specific side quests. This is something that you can't even know unless you actually install a companion mod and take some of the other students with you during these adventures. For example, during Ghost of Our Love, most of the major side characters will have completely different voice lines and reactions from one another, so here, have a quick listen.
I have never followed floating candles into the Forbidden Forest, but I have spent a bit of time here. Keep your wits about you.
Following floating candles into the Forbidden Forest? Well then, after you.
There are obviously more examples, such as the side quest with a secret well, where again your other classmates will have something to say during it.
Hello?
Brilliant. Someone's trapped in that well. Well, if it isn't the tree from the map you found in that well. I suppose talking to that magic well paid off in the end.
Or later on, I found out that during Tangled Web side mission, both Poppy and Sebastian would react differently when destroying the spider eggs, finding out what happened with the spider breeder, and generally react to the enemy encounters differently.
I suppose we know what happened to Mary Portman now. She was breeding the spiders.
She was breeding the spiders for profit, and they turned on her. I don't condone what she did, but she did not deserve this.
Keep in mind that all of these missions are normally done solo in the final version, yet it's clear that the developers meant at some point to let us have other companions with us too, given how they all have different dialogues recorded specifically for this reason. So it could be that a lack of time or maybe performance constraints might have forced the team to abandon these features in favor of a more simplistic story-driven mechanic, which would explain why our character mentions so many times at the end of encounters how there's no one there to see our actions and admire us. Coming up to number 2, you might be shocked to find out that Hogwarts Legacy actually features a fully functioning photo mode, and I think I spent another almost 100 hours on the PC version alone before finding out about it. But there's a couple of downsides. One of them is the fact that this is only for the PC version, and even that, second of all, only for those with Nvidia GPUs. So if you have these, you can access the game's photo mode via Alt plus F2, which is going to let you freely move the camera and give you control over pretty much everything that you need, from FOV, camera roll, depth of field, colors, filters, and much more. Pretty much all that you need in there. You can take awesome screenshots like never before, though it will feel slightly more janky than the usual because of the way Nvidia implemented this. But if you're like me, this is going to be a godsend for some awesome screenshots, and even more so, it lets you appreciate some of the finer details that you likely missed with a normal view. However, you cannot use it during cutscenes and certain gameplay moments such as the mini-games during classes, so do keep that in mind. Moving on to number 3, you should probably spend a bit of time during winter season to test some of the exclusive interactions that you have only during them. I finished the game 2 times actually, and I cannot believe that I missed out on the fact that you can interact with the various snowmen in more than just one way. You find these around the castle outskirts and also in Hogsmeade, and if you happen to attack them or cast a spell against them, you will notice that they will react by throwing snowballs back at you. It's actually a pretty nice way to have some extra interactions that you normally cannot have in other seasons. However, when using any fire spell against these snowmen such as Incendio, you will notice that they will start to melt, and doing it 2 or 3 times will completely melt the snowman, so you would normally think that they are gone for good, right? Well, not really actually. You can use glaciers on it, which will make it completely regenerate back to normal, so you can continue having fun with the snowman, and the snowman will continue, well, I guess, existing. No achievement, but pretty nice attention to detail nonetheless. At number 4, if you want to see Hogsmeade Express train more often, then you should know that it actually runs on a specific schedule. So a huge shout out to the modder that found out about this, but by default it's programmed to spawn at 10 AM in the morning in the game time, or after 9 PM in the evening, also in game time, which can be tricky to find out unless you have a mod that specifically lets you see the in-game time at any moment. Of course, the spawn is not guaranteed either to happen every single day, so there's quite a bit of waiting and or sleeping involved if you want to really see it with your own eyes. However, in the recent patch, there might have been a few changes done to its collision, as it now seems to actually hit you for a brief moment, but unfortunately, a couple of seconds later, it still passes right through your character as the usual. I went ahead and tested the limits of this, and yes, it's totally possible to jump on its roof, and surprisingly, it has the entire upper half of the train indeed fully collision enabled, so you can just run from one end to another without clipping through anything. The train actually travels for a pretty long distance, so you can totally take that ride, and it's enough to meet a few enemies on the way too. Moving on to number 5, in Hogsmeade you can find one of the coolest shops with possibly the most genius game mechanic most people have missed. So if you visit the shop called Bingle and Blatch right here by the 3 broomsticks, you will notice that this pretty innocent entry has 3 doors. You might have even entered one of them before without paying too much attention, but in doing so, you likely missed the fact that the outside doors do not correspond with the interior layout. So let me explain. If you enter the green door in the front, this brings you inside an interior with some sewing kits, wigs, and some mannequins, which actually looks really nice. However, entering through either of the doors on the side will bring you in a completely different interior, including one that looks kind of like some kind of abandoned shack with a lot of pots inside of it, and the third orange door onto the right side, which brings you to a totally new reading place of sorts with books and cool interesting schematics. What makes this a marvel of coding is how each door actually belongs to the same layout, even seems to lead you towards the same interior, except when passing through either of these you're transported to a completely different place within the same building area. I don't think I ever recall seeing anything like it until now. And speaking of hidden areas, there's one back at Hogwarts that probably you even stumbled upon but didn't know what to do with it. So if you take it to the right of the Bell Tower courtyard exit right here on this side of the map and follow the stairs downwards, you'll spot this tapestry of a woman and child and a strange sign beneath it. This actually proves to be a hidden door that leads inside of a larger area. Upon scanning that area, you probably even notice that the large tapestry in the back is glowing, which denotes that it's interactable, but you might have not discovered what actually interacts with it. That is because if you watch it under normal light, this will reveal the story of a woman and her husband and child as they live their lives, go out hunting for deer and werewolves for some reason, visit castles, and a final scene with her holding the child's hand. However, inspecting the same scene with Lumos activated shows a completely different story, one in which she's not with her husband and child but instead hiding from them in fear, one in which she's not taking care of the child but actually having an injury treated, and by the third tapestry we notice it's not the werewolf being hunted but actually it's her at the hands of her husband and some other villagers. Eventually, she has to hide inside of a castle from the mob that wants to obviously kill her. In the final scene, it's revealed why this all happened, and that's because it seems that she was the werewolf all along. Maybe that could help explain the werewolf statue in the same room, but I would totally like to know your theories down below as well. And finally, to number 7, there's actually a Deadday Easter Egg right beneath the Great Hall. You access this by simply heading over outside of the Great Hall, and right before passing into the outside area, you're going to notice this door onto the left side. Heading below, you'll eventually pass this hallway, and to the left around the middle section, you'll notice a locked gate that actually blocks the area ahead. Now for me, this doesn't even show up at all, so you have to actually get close to it and hope that you can activate it the normal way. And once you do that with Alohomora level 3, you can just head inside, which is going to bring you to the downstairs area with this ghost party going on in this larger room filled with ghosts. It's actually a pretty interesting one. There's of course also a missing field guides page if you happen to not have it, so you can totally get that as well as the reward inside. Of course, the game is filled to the brim with secrets, and I've covered many of them in previous videos, so totally check those out as well. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.